For more resources, visit rymonline.org.
The Local Youth Worker is a daily podcast that's centered on 5 questions each week. Ranging from the practical to the professional, we're looking for answers to the questions you're asking. Whether you're in full-time, part-time, or even volunteer youth ministry, this podcast is for you.
Hello everyone, this is John Parrott, and you're listening to The Local Youth Worker, a daily podcast presented by Reformed Youth Ministries. If you're new to the show, we ask our guests 5 questions, 1 question each day, and we're going to have some follow-up questions around that 1 question, but we break this up over the course of the week, and we do basic questions for youth workers. We've also had some RUF campus ministers on the show, but today I'm talking to Senior Pastor Scott Lowe. Scott, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, John.
So Scott has been in Fort Collins, Colorado for how long?
13 years.
13 years. And you planted the church, is that correct?
I was assistant planter. I came on in 2004 with Richard Reeves and worked as the assistant planter for the first 4 years. And in 2008, he took a call to Memphis, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. But the church then called me to pastor the church. So I did 4 years as an assistant and 9 years as the lead pastor, senior pastor.
Wow.
And
then prior to that, I know you were in Ridgeland, Mississippi for a time. You did some college ministry, and even before that, did you do any youth ministry? I don't even know.
Yeah, I did. I did youth ministry from really my first youth ministry job was in it was in Illinois, Godfrey, Illinois. I'm glad I got that.
Memory lane.
And I got paid maybe like $100 a month, and to supplement, I worked on a pig farm.
Are you serious?
It was crazy, and that was how I made money. And I did that for the summer, and so that kind of kicked off kind of more formal ministry. Okay. And I did youth ministry on and off, and then got hired on I did a lot of volunteer youth ministry in a church plant. And then I worked really all the way to about 2001 before I went to seminary.
Okay.
In youth ministry.
Okay.
And then, as you said, when I was in Mississippi, during seminary, I served working with college students. And so been able to have just from youth ministry through some, the college experience of where those questions are with students, and assistant pastor, and then been doing this. So it's been an interesting go for 23 years maybe.
Man, that is. And as much as I would like to hear about the pig farm, maybe we could save that for another podcast. But briefly too, tell us, you're married and children. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So actually next week, June 28th, it'll be 20 years. Got married in 1997, and we have 2 kids. 14, my son Davis, and my daughter is 12. Her name's Ella, and
awesome.
My wife's name's Amy.
Yeah, and just briefly, I've got to say quick, Davis was Gap Baby when he was back in the day, so you can Google that maybe. And
you probably can find it somewhere.
All right, well, Scott, thanks so much for being on the show today. The first question I had for you is, what's some advice you would give youth workers, and specifically this is in reference to their interaction with senior pastors, since you are a senior pastor, things they should do, to foster better relationships?
Yeah, when you posed that question, I was really trying to think about it from being a youth pastor at the time to where I am now. And obviously, I'm going to be answering this question more from a church size of 150 to 200 people. So
Gotcha.
When you're a much bigger church, you have much more layers of that interaction with a senior pastor. But one of the things that I think is crucial that I needed to know, and then what I want to communicate with my youth workers is one, we're just in this together. Ministry is you're just out front, and everybody's watching you, and it takes very little to get negative opinions coming in sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And it really gets at your psyche.
Absolutely.
And so when as a senior pastor working with my youth leaders, man, they're amazing. They're digging in with kids, but they just need to know. And I probably spend a lot of time talking about, we're in this together. Ministry is insane sometimes. Mainly because you're preaching the gospel. You really, and the way I like to define the gospel is the way some out there have said is you're just more simple than you know, yet you're more loved in Jesus than you can imagine. And trying to believe that in the middle of ministry is very hard. So a lot of times as a pastor with any of my staff is really trying to talk them off ledges. It's lonely. It's difficult. You'll never satisfy everybody at all. You will have people that come along that just lift you up.
Yeah.
And so one is just we're just really in it together.
That's huge, because you do hear those stories where that's not the case, and it could be maybe church size has something to do with that, but where the senior pastor is not as accessible, because it's one thing to go through those tough moments you're describing, but to go through them and to know your senior pastor doesn't have your back and doesn't have that relationship, so that goes a long way to foster that relationship.
Yeah, I've seen some good churches that have gotten big even in our area, and when that senior pastor starts to realize, like basically a senior pastor, you can only pastor so many people at a time. And I'm even out-tasked right now, but I believe my first line are my staff, and I really want to know them. It doesn't matter how big my church gets. It just means my pastoring now is of the leaders and staff and youth leaders. And a lot of youth leaders are coming right out of college, or some of them are coming out of seminary, and some of them haven't necessarily had that kind of frontline experience. And so it was kind of in theory. And I think some of the best advice that was given in that first year when I was working that summer was the pastor I worked with, a great guy and still friends. But he said, just test the waters. Just put your big foot in. Ministry's tough, and and he told me with his internship, he said, you're either going to get to the end and you're going to have an appetite for this, or you won't. And don't be ashamed if you don't. And that's just because I think sometimes we build up ministry in such a way that that's the only way that you can really, I guess, serve God or something, when you might be more gifted in business or marketing or something else, nonprofit work or something. But it is that hard relationally, and you shouldn't be pushing yourself. You should push yourself, but not in a way that pushes you outside of your gifts. And youth ministry is an amazing place to examine your gifts.
Yeah.
But it's also an amazing way to dig into kids' lives, and we can talk about that in a bit. But that's, as a pastor, I'm really concerned that my folks are in their gifting, and that's really hard to. That's like just a lot of work with them.
Yeah.
Getting to know them.
Yeah. That's great. That's good, Scott. Thank you for that. Anything else you want to add to that?
I don't think so.
All right. Thanks, Scott.